Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today I'm going to get stuck back into the brakes. Okay guys, as you saw a couple of episodes ago, I was working on the brakes, and the spacers that I'd got were basically they were spacing the disc back too far so that the caliper wouldn't line up. So I've deduced, even though I ordered the 240Z spacers, this is a 71 240Z, the spacing apparently on them is bigger. I've got the two spacers here. I've managed to get the new one. So this is the 260Z spacer, so it's smaller, so it doesn't space the caliper back as far, so hopefully it should fit. The thing is though, I measured the strut, and the strut I think on the 240Z is 51 mil and the 260Z is 55, and this is 51 mil, so it is a 240Z strut. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but either way, I'm going to try these new thinner spacers and see how they go. All right, caliper is on. It bolts on beautifully now. It all sits exactly the way it's supposed to. Now, there's been lots of discussion. People are going, you've wrecked the balance of the car, you've just added unsprung weight. The bias is completely out, which the bias is definitely going to have been changed. I don't know if it's as drastic as what some people all sort of think, doom and gloom. I've talked to quite a few people who've done this and been running it for 10 years, and they've had no problems. They found it much better braking. Some people saying, you know, this because it's such a much bigger caliper, instead of being 70-30 brake bias, now it's going to be 85-15. But the thing you've got to also think about is that now that there is more fluid, and apparently you need more pedal to engage these. So in some ways, yes, it's going to have more braking at the front, but it also takes more of the fluid than the rear. It takes more pedal than the rear, so the rears are going to come on sort of, it will balance out a bit, and as long as the rears don't lock up first, then it's good. And as I said, from what I've seen, at worst case, I'll just put in a, which is quite possibly what I'll do, is I'll put in a brake bias adjuster afterwards to just to set the bias up so the bias is perfectly balanced. But I am quite comfortable with this this mod. The other big thing that a lot of people have seen with doing this mod, one of the biggest things is the cooling of the brakes. So if you're tracking the cars, it brakes so much better because you can sustain longer braking without everything heating up so much. So I am quite comfortable with this this upgrade, and I think it's a good. It was cheap. These calipers were only a couple $100. The spacer was about $100, and the discs and stuff had to be replaced anyway, so I call that a wash. So really, it's not an expensive upgrade, and if you compare it to aftermarket pads and stuff like that for the original brakes, and the original brakes I would have had to rebuild and everything anyway. Aftermarket pads are really expensive. This is actually, I'm going to be running factory just Bendix pads in this setup, and I think it should be a good upgrade for street and and balance out the extra bit of extra power that I'm going to be having out of this car. I'm comfortable that it's a good upgrade. I've got to make up another hard line for running between the flex and the caliper. Another question was, does the factory wheels sit over this? So even the factory 14-inch wheels will fit over this upgrade. So that's another big benefit of this upgrade over, say, using something from an R33 Skyline or something like that, which are going to be bigger diameter. You can only do it with you're running bigger wheels. I mean, I'm running 15s, which are slightly bigger, but you still can't accommodate too much. I don't know if the R33 calipers fit under that, depending on what discs you use. The only thing I found is that the back of the factory wheels are just touching this these ribs on the front of the caliper, which I think if you insisted on running the factory rims, which pretty much nobody's going to do anyway, not with this setup, you just grind those ribs down a little bit. But in my case, I might put just a couple of washers on just to space the wheel out, because it's only going to have those wheels on while I'm moving it around. So all right, let's move on. Sorry for more microphone issues. The heat has really been playing havoc in my garage with the batteries on my camera and my microphone. But I've got myself a new brake line flaring tool. It's not an amazing one, but it's not the most junk one. So let's give it a go and see how it works. And here you can see it actually works quite well. It makes quite a nice little flare here. So I've done my first flare. I need to bend it up, work out the length I need, and then do another flare, and I'll have a line made up. All right, my line is in. It's not the prettiest. It's quite difficult to bend it in this sort of small angle. I still need to get a clip for this, for the flex line, to clip it into the bracket onto the hub. That's an easy thing I can pick up, and I'll probably try and get some new flex lines. In any case, that is this side done. It is finally, I couldn't get the pads in with they had these little backing plates. They had these little backing plates. I think they probably to stop it squealing. I couldn't get them in with the pistons pressed back all the way. It was just too tight. Maybe when they wear down a bit, and if they start squealing, I can reinstate these things if it becomes an issue. But for the time being, they're in. Front, this side's done, so now it's time to do everything again on the other side. Okay, so now I've got the brakes connected up underneath. My next step is to actually connect up the master cylinder. Now, this is a factory master cylinder, and again, I've talked to a bunch of people who've used the factory master cylinder for many years and had no issues. They do have to use more pedal, but that's just what it is. You can upgrade to a bigger master cylinder, which is is not a bad upgrade. But for now, what I'm planning on doing is I was going to just remove this bias adjuster, mostly because this is set up for the factory setup so that it sends a little bit more to the rear brakes and just keeps the balance right. The issue is that now I have messed up the balance anyway, so this is sort of pretty redundant. The only reason I'm going to keep it is because it actually has basically the brake lines for the front are 2 individual lines, and this is where they join in. So one went in the top, and one goes in the end, and then the rear brake goes in the other end. I'm looking at the side of the master cylinder, and it's actually got an F and an R on it. So the front brake, I assume the F and R is front and rear. So the front is the rearmost cylinder, and the rear is the frontmost. Nice and confusing. So I'm going to just switch this up and connect it up and connect up all the brake lines, and then hopefully we have a fully completed brake system. Now I've blown out all the lines, so I'm happy with that. So all right, let's connect this up. All right, front end's connected up now. Some of you are asking if I'm going to change the rears over to discs. From what I gather, a lot of the standard conversions don't actually upgrade much. Just the drums actually work quite well. They're just the discs are easier to change and deal with. I'm going to just pull them apart, just have a quick look. I haven't planned on changing anything. As long as the pads and everything still look good, I'm going to put them back together and leave them as they are. I'm happy with that. So let's just have a quick look, and then hopefully we'll be able to bleed the system and at least get the brakes done. Get one thing finished on the car. Fingers crossed. All right, brakes are on and they are bled. They need a top-up bleed, definitely. The paddle is still soft. I've just been pumping it with my hand. Yeah, I'm going to have to go through and have a bit of a play later on. But basically, there is some pedal there. There is some brakes. The brakes are on the car. It's one bit that I can sort of roughly tick off for now. Moving on. One other question I just want to ask you guys before I move on. With the carbies, I know my limit of knowledge is just to the Beetle, and I know that there is no fuel return for the Beetle, but I did notice that there is a return line to the fuel tank for these carbies. Now I'm going to be running a low pressure, like a carby fuel pump, runs from 4 to 7 psi. So it's a low pressure pump, and I was ready to do it with no return, but now I'm seeing that there is a return line. I'm not sure how that works. Is it the way I should set it up? Let me know in the description. In any case, that is all I have time for today. So that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in the earlier days of NASCAR, the cars were weighed before the race to ensure they were at the minimum. Many of the racers would leave their helmets and their radios in the car for the weigh-in, and some even went to the lengths of creating solid lead helmets and radios, which they would then swap out before the race began. Darrell Waltrip's team would fill the frame rails with lead shot, which he would then release on the back straight by pulling a wire which would open the track door and let all the balls come out. Darrell Waltrip's team filled the frame rails with lead shot, and he would then pull a small wire, opening a trapdoor and releasing the balls on the back straight. This worked until on one occasion a crew member washed the car and the balls stuck together. They didn't come out until Waltrip was speeding down pit lane and the crews of the other teams were pelted with the ball bearings. NASCAR quickly shut down that loophole.
Okay, brakes are on. It's coming together. All these little tinkering bits at the end are sort of tedious, but I'm liking how it is. So yeah, a couple of those questions there about the fuel return system and stuff like that. Just let me know. In
Yeah.
any case, all right.
Otherwise, all moving in the right direction.
Yep.
So have a great happy new year, and we will see you in 2019. Is that right?
No, we'll see you before.
We'll see you before 2019 and
see
wish
you
you a happy new year.
But we're wishing you a Merry New Year anyway. All right, see you guys.
Yes. Team would fill the frame. No, fill frame rails. You try saying that; it's hard. Would fill the frame rail. It is. Daryl Waltrip's team would film. Oh my God, it's never going to end.